If you don't mind, let's dive right into the topic of losing your long-term relationship.
Sure. So my name is Stephanie McPhail, and I specialize in helping women heal after divorce or a breakup. And I have become super passionate about sharing what I've learned because I was stuck in the cycle of choosing partners that were not great for me and then trying to make it work. So once I did the work on myself, I knew there were too many people who were stuck just like me with embarrassment, shame, loneliness, and isolation, thinking there was something wrong with them because they had gotten a divorce and feeling like they were broken. And I needed to let people know that they could create the change they were looking for, no matter how long they'd experienced something negative and no matter what their background knowledge was about it. And I thought that when I got a divorce, things would just be okay and I would just never do any of that ever again. And I fell into a major depression. But I remember thinking, wow, I'm old. Like, am I ever going to be able to do the things that I wanted to do? Have I wasted too much of my life? Is there anything better out there for me? But even with that fear that I had, I knew that whatever I could create differently was going to be better than whatever I had experienced.
Tell us a little bit about what type of communication was going on in those toxic relationships.
Well, I think for like my first long-term relationship, I was going to college. I had big aspirations for myself, and he didn't. He was already an electrician, he already had a career. So he was going out hanging out with his friends and didn't really have much interest in moving forward. And so when his father passed away, he started behaving differently. He was an escape artist. He would just try to run off, he didn't want to deal with anything. And then when I would try to push and say like, hey, you've got to deal with this right before his father had cancer. So I'm like, you need to go see him more. You need to go be with your family. And he would lash out at me. And so it was just me trying to get him to be a part of his family. And he would lose his temper and yell and scream and didn't want to put up with any of it. So that became a problem. My first husband, actually, the communication was terrible. If I ever brought up an issue that I had, he would get defensive immediately and then try to turn around it on me and tell me that how all the wrong things that I had ever done, as opposed to dealing with a problem. And so it was not like, hey, let's talk this through. It was me like, hey, there's a problem. And then him yelling, screaming, putting me down and ripping me apart. And then me finally getting to a point where I would lose my temper. And then we'd be going back and forth, yelling and screaming. You know, I share a story before I even got married to my first husband. There was red flags. I mean, they were waving, and I would see those red flags and be like, is this waving me into the relationship? And I got married thinking I wanted to settle down. So I was really ignoring all of them. But there was a really important period of time that happened. And him and I were fighting a lot, and people didn't know how badly we were fighting. Like he'd get mad at something I said and drop me off on the side of the road on an expressway in the middle of the night. And I would have nowhere to go. It'd be like snowing and raining and whatever. But anyway, so we had gone out to a friend's birthday party in New York City. We had a really great time. And when we were coming back, I fell asleep on the train. And when I woke up on the train, he was nowhere to be found. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, what's going on? How long have I been here? And I'm like all disoriented and confused. I think I'd taken my boots off. So I like grab my boots and I'm walking in the train and I'm walking towards the car and I see the car. And he hasn't locked it first, and I'm trying to get in. He finally lets me in. And I was like, why did you leave me on the train? Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you leave your wife on the train? It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Why would you do that? And he starts yelling and screaming at me, and I lost it. So that's called reactionary abuse. There was already things that he had done like that was hurtful and abusive towards me. And I started just like clawing at it. I was so mad and I wanted to just rip his eyes out. Like I was just so angry. And I was like out of myself. So the next day we wake up and he looked like he had been abused. And he's like, see, you can be just as abusive as I can. And I can push your buttons just like you push mine and see how it gets you. And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. I'm just as bad as he is. I can't believe that I lost my temper like that. And I promised myself that I don't care what goes on, I will never do that again. I will never get to that point. But this was a month before we got married. And then on our wedding night, he strangled me. So he was still doing all of those things, but he was always using things to manipulate. And communication is not about manipulating. Communication is about allowing two people to feel heard and understood. But when you're dealing with these kinds of narcissists, communication is really just about getting them to get what they want, because they want to manipulate you to get whatever that need is to be met. So whether it's attention, whether it's to be needed, whether it's to be wanted, to feel good about themselves, whatever it is, that's what they're looking from you to do. After the fact, there's a lot of healing that happens afterwards, because our brain feels like mush, where it's hard to know what was real anymore, because what was
Yes.
them just telling me crazy things, and what's the things that I really actually need to heal to be a better person.
Some of the things you're describing were also in my relationship where I would react. There was so much anger and buildup that I would just explode. And when I saw that, what I call now that monster that came out of me, the person that I didn't recognize, like that was definitely out of character for me. So when I started looking at that, it was scary.
Contentious.
Was
Yeah.
there
Well,
anything like that for you as well?
100%. And I think those were some of the things with both of those long-term relationships, is that the partying, the going out drinking and whatever, it would be fun until it wasn't. And then he would get all the anger and lash out at me. And it got to the point where I couldn't even have fun, because I was afraid, like, uh-oh, now I got to watch what he's doing, because now it's not going to be fun anymore. And now I have to protect myself. And I'll tell you that now I'm remarried to my best friend. We have two beautiful children. My husband and I actually now both help women heal after toxic relationships, after these divorces. And I've never had the feeling like I wanted to attack him. We can have a few drinks and just have fun, where I'm not worried that I'm going to say or do the wrong thing and he's going to get mad at me. Like, he's easygoing in that sense. So those are the kind of things I think we lose sight of when we're in the survival mode, when we're trying to make this relationship work and we're trying to figure things out. And after we leave and we feel this abandonment, anger, and let down, shame and guilt, and like all these layers of emotions that we feel, there's this thing of, am I just too messed up now that I can't create a better life for myself? And I want everyone who's listening to really be aware that not only is it possible, but you kind of owe it to yourself.
Yes.
There's something, you are here, put on this earth, different from anybody else. You are here in this body, and all of these things that you've experienced, you were put here to do something great. And it wasn't to deal with that crappy relationship. It's you that has something great to give to the world. And when you really truly feel that and understand that you are deserving of great things, and you act in a way that you tell the universe, I will not accept any of these negative things anymore, you will start attracting those people in your life. So all the things that we've been talking about, I want you to know that it doesn't have to stay that way. You can create your best friend with your future relationship. You can stay single. You can do really whatever you want. But like you said, you can be the creator of it. You don't have to be the one who's just dealing with whatever cards are being given to you. You can actually be the one who deals out the cards and decides, looks at them and says, which one do I want to play? And it becomes more empowering than feeling like you have to just survive.